County Honorable Sabina Chege will be asking the Cabinet Secretary for Tourism and Wildlife to confirm the appointment of members of the Tourism Regulatory Authorities Board was carried out in compliance with the requirements of Section 8 of the Tourism Act. She'll also be seeking to have the Cabinet Secretary explain the circumstances under which the appointment of one Pauline Njoroge is said to have been revoked 24 hours after the gazettement, and was Ms. Njoroge given a fair hearing prior to the revocation of her appointment to the board. This is under reference in accordance with Article 50 of the Constitution of Kenya. Those particular questions will be replied before the Departmental Committee on Environment and Natural Resources. Honourable Member for Molo, Francis Kuria Kimani, will be asking the Cabinet Secretary for Foreign Affairs what the Ministry of Foreign Affairs through Kenya Embassy in Saudi Arabia is doing to facilitate the return of the remains of the late Alice Owor Tindo, who until her death worked in Saudi Arabia as a nanny, and does the ministry through the Kenya Embassy in Saudi Arabia maintain a database of all Kenyans living and working in Saudi Arabia, especially as domestic helps? Those questions will be replied before the Departmental Committee on Defense and Foreign Relations. A couple of bills are set to be tabled before the National Assembly this morning session. Honorable Gathoni Wamushomba will be tabling the Sexual Offences Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 24 of 2020. The principal object of the bill is to amend the Sexual Offences Act of 2006. This is to provide for a manner of collection, analysis, tracking, as well as access to the forensic evidence relating to sexual assault. The amendments will provide for the contents and the preparation of sexual examination kits to allow for the collection of evidence of sexual assault from victims for possible submission of forensic analysis. Under the proposals in the bill, a victim of sexual assault is entitled for free preparation of sexual examination kit, which they may consent to be submitted for forensic analysis. Honorable Benjamin Washiali will be tabling a bill on the Insurance Professionals Regulations Bill, National Assembly's Bill number 25 of 2020. The bill seeks to provide for a legislative framework for the regulations of professionals in the insurance sector to enhance the standards of service in the sector, promote professionalism, and address concerns. This is regarding the professional misconduct in the insurance industry. The bill also seeks to establish the Insurance Institute of Kenya as an overall professional organ for the insurance professionals that shall regulate professionals' conduct and maintain levels of standards of services rendered by the insurance professions registered under the bill. The bill will help to promote the recognition of the insurance professionals not only in Kenya but also in the East African region. On your screens is the Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Moses Cheboy, making his way into the chambers. I'll now hand you over for the live broadcast. Good morning.
Honorable members, let's pray. Almighty God, who in your wisdom and goodness have appointed the offices of leaders and parliaments for welfare of society and the just government of the people, we beseech you to behold with your abundant favor as your servants, whom you have been pleased to call to performance of important trusts in this republic. Let your blessings descend upon us here assembled, grant that we treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberations in so just and faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country and of those whose interest you've committed to our charge. Amen.
Yeah, the questions. Sabina and Athman.
Okay, thank you.
Honorable members, you will allow us to confirm that we have the required numbers, especially in the holding areas.
Moses Chiboy has just requested for the House to confirm if indeed there is quorum to proceed with the morning session.
Those ones who are outside.
According to the standing orders, members of Parliament have to be in a particular number for the business of the House to commence. Standing Orders number 35 says that if at any time the chair is taken, or when the House is, or in the committee, or a member objects, there's no quorum present, the Speaker or the chairperson shall count the members in the House or the committee as the case may be. Subsection 2 states that if on the count under paragraph 1 on quorum does not appear to be present, the Speaker or the chairperson shall cause the division bell to be rung on as a division, and if no quorum is present at the expiry of the 10 minutes, the standing orders indicate that if the Speaker is in the chair, the Speaker shall adjourn the House until the next sitting without a question being put. If the House is in committee, the chairperson shall leave the chair and report the fact to the Speaker, who shall adjourn the House until the next sitting without a question being put. Subsection 3 states that whenever the Speaker or the chairperson, as the case may be, is engaged in counting the House or the committee respectively, the House shall remain locked, but no member shall be allowed to leave the chamber except a party whip, who may be permitted to leave the chamber. This is to seek the members required to raise the quorum. The House is this morning expected to debate a couple of bills according to this morning session's order paper. One of the bills is by Honorable Sarup Mishra on the Health Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 64 of 2019. The principal object of that bill is to amend the Health Act number 21 of 2017 to introduce a new section which provides for the development of policy guidelines to regulate the referral of patients to health institutions, both within and outside the country. The introduction of the new section will ensure that the relevant stakeholders are involved in the process of developing such policy guidelines so as to ensure the process of the referral to hospitals outside the country is not subjected to abuse. Honorable Didmas Baraza will be tabling a bill on the Pensions Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 26 of 2020. The principal object of the bill is to amend the Pensions Act, Cap number 189, to provide for a timeline within which pension shall be payable to an officer. The bill seeks to have a remedy on the delays in payment of pension after pension has become payable. Also lined up for debate in this morning session.
I order the bell stops ringing because we have achieved the required quorum. So business will begin.
Shall we start? Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair. Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers.
Under that particular order, we have the leader of majority party tabling documents.
Thank you. I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, Thursday, September 10th, 2020, morning sitting. Number 1, legal notice number 129 relating to the public health, in brackets COVID-19 General Public Safety Rules 2020, and the explanatory memoranda from the Ministry of Health. Number 2, legal notice number 163 relating to the public health, again in bracket COVID-19 sale of alcoholic drinks rules 2020, and the explanatory memoranda from the Ministry of Health. Number 3, legal notice number 164 relating to crops, nuts and oil crops, regulations 2020, and the explanatory memoranda from the Ministry of Agriculture, Livestock, Fisheries and Cooperatives. Number 4, list of nominees to 9 constituencies committees from the National Government Constituencies Development Fund Board as follows: Baringo South Constituency, Cherangani Constituency, Kacheliba Constituency, Mumias West Constituency, Mvita Constituency, Okalao Constituency, Wajir North Constituency, Daragwa Constituency, and Sabatia Constituency. And number 5, the reports of the Auditor General and the financial statements in respect to the following institutions for the year ended 30th of June 2019, and the certificates therein. Number 1, the Insurance Regulatory Authority, the Consolidated Bank of Kenya Limited, Kenya Electricity Generating Company PLC, IDB Capital Limited, and lastly, Geothermal Development Company Limited. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Very well. So therefore, we go to the next order.
Order number 6, notices of motions. Order number 7, questions and statements.
On this particular order, we have both questions and statements, both request and reply. And on the part of questions, we have private questions by private notice and the ordinary questions. So we'll start with questions by private notice. And honorable members, as per your order paper, the question number 22 by the member for Muranga County is deferred on her request. So we go to the member for Molo. Honorable Kuria Kimani Francis. Let's see, you have not pressed any, I can't see your name here, Honorable. So you have it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I rise to ask a question by private notice. And one, what is the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, through the Kenya Embassy in Saudi Arabia, doing to facilitate the bringing back home of the remains of the late Alice Award Tindo of identity card number 35064926, who until her sudden death and unclear circumstances on 14th of June 2020 was living and working in Najran city in Saudi Arabia as a nanny. Number two, does the Ministry of Foreign Affairs through the Kenya Embassy in Saudi Arabia maintain a database of all Kenyans living and working in Saudi Arabia, especially as domestic helps? And lastly, Mr. Speaker, what steps is the Ministry of Foreign Affairs taking to provide a lasting solution to the rampant cases of violence meted on Kenyans working as domestic helps in the Middle East and particularly in Saudi Arabia? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. That one will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Defense and Foreign Relations. Now, honorable members, we go to the ordinary questions, and we will start off with a member for Kuresoi South, Honorable Joseph Tanui.
Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to ask question 167 of 2020 to the Cabinet Secretary for Sports, Culture and Arts. Question number one, Honorable Speaker, why has the construction of Lengurwan Stadium in Nakuru County, which was funded by the national government and inaugurated in 2014, stalled? Number two, how much money has been spent on the project? And what is the scope of works done so far? Number three, when will the construction of the said project resume? And when is it expected to be completed? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Very well. That one will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Sports, Culture and Tourism. Then we go to the member for Nakuru Town East. The member for Nakuru Town East. Question deferred. Now, on question number 171 in the order paper by the member for Lamu East, Honorable Sharif Azman Ali, is also deferred upon his request. So we go to the member for Oljororo, Honorable Mushira.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to ask question number 175 of 2020, directed to the Cabinet Secretary for Tourism and Wildlife. 1. Could the Cabinet Secretary outline the measures the Ministry has put in place to address the human-wildlife conflict in Orojoro constituency, particularly involving hippopotamus in the area near Rik or Bolsat? 2. Are there any measures in place by the Ministry to facilitate compensation of the area residents for losses incurred as a result of destruction of crops and other properties by the said wildlife? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. That one will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Environment and Natural Resources. So we go to the next one, the last one in this particular bit. That's the member for Starehe, Honorable Jaguar. I'm trying to trace you, Honorable Jagwa, because you have not placed your card.
I don't know why it's not working, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, you have it.
Mr. Speaker, I raise to ask question directed to CS Transport. Could the Cabinet Secretary provide the ownership, status, and site? Sorry, Mr. Speaker. I rise to ask question directed to CS for Transport, Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development and Public Works. 1. Could the Cabinet Secretary provide the ownership, status, and size of the land under Marigiti Market and Muthurwa Market? 2. Could the Cabinet Secretary explain why occupants of the said land and traders in the market were evicted and their property burnt on 7th August 2020? 3. Could the Cabinet Secretary consider ensuring that the occupants and traders who lost their property during the eviction attributed to action by staff agents of Kenya Railways Corporation are compensated? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. That one will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Transport, Public Works and Housing. So now, honorable members, we go to statements, and we'll start with statement requests, and then we go to the issuance of statements that have already been requested. So we'll start by the member for Kuresoi South, Honorable Tanui. And there are many chairs which are empty, so Honorable Tanui, as soon as you ask your statement, you can take any of the seats that are empty.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity once again to request for a statement regarding the ongoing land demarcation and boundary alteration in Bararget settlement scheme in Kuresoi South constituency, Nakuru County. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order 44.2c, I seek to request a statement from the Chairperson, Departmental Committee on Environment and Natural Resources regarding the ongoing land demarcation and boundary alteration in Bararget settlement scheme in Kuresoi South constituency in Nakuru County. Honorable Speaker, the national government is currently undertaking land demarcation and boundary alteration in Bararget scheme. Once the exercise is complete, it will see more than 300 families residing in the scheme evicted and rendered landless. This notwithstanding the fact that they were settled in the scheme by the same government in 1999, following the dissettlement notice of 2nd October 1997, and issued with title deeds. These people settled on this land were victims of 1997 Lare tribal clashes. Regrettably, the exercise is being undertaken despite a court order stopping the process. Honorable Speaker, it is worth noting that a lot of resources have been put on the development of the area, though, among other things, construction of public infrastructure projects such as schools, hospitals, roads, electricity, water, as well as individual residents developing their farms and constructing permanent houses. Honorable Speaker, the persons residing in the said area are living now in distress and anguish. And it's against this background that I seek for a statement from the Chairperson, Departmental Committee on Environment and Natural Resources. In the statement, the Chairperson should address the following concerns. Number one, why is the government demarcating land and altering boundaries on the said area that people were settled on more than 20 years ago and issued with title deeds following the disgustment notice of 2nd October 1997. Number 2, why are the Ministries of Environment and Forestry and Interior and National Coordination disobeying a court order stopping the said process? Number 3, could the government consider first engaging the affected families, resettling and fully compensating them for their land and other properties before carrying out evictions? Number 4, what is the fate of schools, hospitals, and other public infrastructures in the settlement area, which will be affected by the demarcation of boundaries? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Very well, and you can take any available seat. And the Sergeant at Arms, you are also asked to allow any member who would be coming in to take the seats that are available. Now, let me ask, where is the chairman, Environmental Committee on Environment and Natural Resources? Is he in? Or any member? Now, we will ask and request the leader of majority to liaise with him to have that question answered within 14 days. Then we go to the issuance of statements. We have one that was requested by Honorable Kenta and Honorable Tanui, being given by the Chair Security Committee, Honorable Koinange. Are you ready on it? Yes, proceed, Honorable Koinange.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Speaker. I've already spoken to Richard, Honorable Richard, and Honorable Speaker. I want to report to this House for the purpose of record that I have deferred both statements which I was to issue this morning, because the statement to Honorable Richard Kenta, it is not satisfactory, and I will need more information from the Ministry of Interior for the purpose of Kenta to be able to engage his own people. And Honorable Speaker, as I do that also, I've agreed with Kenta that we want to engage also IPOA in order to get more information, especially to the second part of the question in regard to the officers who are engaged in this criminal activity in this area. Honorable Speaker, the next question was from Honorable Tonui regarding the borders around Narok and Nakuru. And also this particular statement, Honorable Speaker, is very unsatisfactory, and I think the answer is very shallow. So I need more information from the CS of Interior in order to answer the Honorable Member to the satisfaction to himself and his people. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Very well. How much time do you require, Honorable Koinange?
Yeah.
Because upon your request, really, it makes a lot of sense. And it means, therefore, that you look at your
after talking
before you bring.
to Honorable, I think both the question by the statement for Tonui, I'll need 2 weeks. But the one for my brother, I'll need at least about 3 weeks, because I think there's more information that is needed than what is on the statement issued by the ministry.
Okay. So it means 2 weeks for Honorable. But before I make that decision, it's important that I hear also from the members who sought the settlement. And my advice, Honorable Chair, is that probably you would have done both on the same day, because they actually are similar and touch the same thing. But that's really up to you. Honorable Tanui, do you have anything to say on it? Are you comfortable with the 2 weeks? You're already having You had been given an opportunity where you were sitting, so you probably would ask there so that you don't have to come all the way.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I am comfortable with the 2 weeks so long as the chairperson comes up with long-lasting solutions.
Very well.
Thank you.
Let's go to the Honorable Richard Olekenta.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Speaker. That's a strange name.
I know the name is fairly
yes.
strange.
Okay,
Actually,
thank you very much.
When the chair mentioned as Richard, it was difficult to...
It's okay. Honorable Speaker, thank you. Honorable Speaker, in fact, I'd like to first of all commend and thank my colleague, the chairman, for who have just spoken. In fact, it's good that they shared the statement with us before they presented before this House. And I sympathize with most of us chairs, because we are acting for people who are not serious with their work. Because if a member asks a question with specific answers expected, and then they give very shallow responses, then it actually puts the chairman in an awkward position. And I'll try to really tell these cabinet secretaries that they should answer to Parliament, and they should not take Parliament for granted, because that's what's happening. And that is why there are conflicts in Kenya. That's why there is no authority anywhere. And I think, Honorable Chair, I agree with him, and I need more time. But meanwhile, I'll suggest that maybe the committee thinks about actually taking these matters to IPOA, especially the one that affects my people, because 2 people died, 4 were injured by police bullets. So I think that is appropriate, and I think there were 3 weeks. We want a thorough answer on that one. Thank you, Honorable Chair, Honorable Speaker.
The chair has requested for more time, but I can give 2 more members. Let's start with Honorable Amalwa, and then I come this direction. I pick 1 or 2, and then that should be it. I believe what you are doing is simply buttressing the kind of statement that we should be expecting from the chair. That would make more sense.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for granting me this opportunity. Mr. Speaker, matters of security, most of the time they are cross-cutting. And I've been in this Parliament, Mr. Speaker, this is my 2nd time. And unless it's a new tradition, Mr. Speaker, in terms of responding to people's questions, ideally, Mr.
I'm
Speaker,
sure you meant 2nd term, because if you are saying 2nd term, still it makes sense.
Absolutely.
Probably Tuesday and today.
Yes, I'm still in my 2nd term, Mr. Speaker. And ideally, Mr. Speaker, the chairmen are normally just conveyor belts, conveying the information from the executive. And Mr. Speaker, if indeed a question was directed to the CS, and in his answers, Mr. Speaker, it's unsatisfactory, I think it's also a sign of incompetence. And it can form a basis, Mr. Speaker, of impeachment. Because traditionally, Mr. Speaker, the chair is supposed to give the information, then we are supposed to seek some clarifications. But in such a case, Mr. Speaker, it becomes difficult for other members to seek clarifications, further clarifications on that statement. So in case within 2 weeks, we are going to get the same unsatisfactory answers, then the committee should move forward and impeach that CS on incompetence, Mr. Speaker. I thank you.
Well, that's a very interesting, approach that you are taking. But the thing is that the chair and the members who requested for the statement seem to be agreed that the statement by Honorable Tanui be brought in 2 weeks, and that one by Honorable Kenta in 3 weeks. So for the members who are, contributing on it now, is just, as I said, to give, ideas on how the chair can make it more detailed. So, Honorable Mbarire, maybe you are a bit busy, so let me give, yes, you are busy?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm sorry I have misplaced my card. But, Mr. Speaker, I'm raising on a concern of these questions that members raise here, or statements. Yes. Mr. Speaker, I sought a statement from the Ministry of Gender, and that was in the previous session before we went on recess. And it was like, I would say now it's about 3 months since I sought that statement. And the ministry said they needed a multi-sectoral committee to answer that question. What do we do when members seek statements and the ministries are not forthright to their answers and they take their time, Mr. Speaker? Because I sought a statement about the issue of teen pregnancies, and up to now I've not heard anything, Mr. Speaker.
Well, that seems to be something that would require a more specific, request that, we'll be dealing with specifically your case. So I think it is something that we want to know from which chair did you seek that particular one?
Committee of Labor, Mr. Speaker.
So we will ask the chair, Committee of Labor, to tell us the status, and I'm not so sure I see the chair Labor, Honorable Mwadi. But in the meantime, that will be communicated. I'm sure the leader of majority will be able to do that and discuss with him, especially in the next hour or so when they'll be having their liaison meeting. So, Honorable Commissioner Kainan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, while appreciating what the chairman of security has done, but there's one thing, Mr. Speaker, we must sound as members of parliament. The governance structure that we have here, members of the executive are outside parliament. Chairpersons are left with the task of explaining to the House and the Kenyan public statements and questions that they may not be really privy to. And in the end, the chairman is blamed, parliament is blamed. Chairman, Mr. Speaker, what I want to suggest is this. That it's high time that the chairs of committees actually put their foot down and take to task CSCs and other senior government officials who are giving bad image to the government by not responding to questions and statements, because I can imagine a statement relating to security is normally so urgent and requires a lot of due diligence. Now the chairman is here. I'm surprised the members are asking for 3 weeks, 2 weeks, but that is their right. And a statement relating to security is so urgent, and therefore, in future, the chairman of the security committee or any other chairman who is supposed to deliver a statement from a minister or a question from a minister should be thorough enough and say, bring a comprehensive answer. And that is the only way Parliament will be respected. That is the only way the CSs will also take their work seriously. And that is the only way the members will also be satisfied, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you.
Mr. Speaker.
I think that we have really, I probably will give the last one to the leader of majority. But as we do that, I think we should all be applauding the chair of that particular committee, because on his own motion, he has thought it fit that he needs to get more details. Which that is to tell you that that particular committee is working quite well. So, leader of majority, before we move to the next one, because there will be nothing I'm ruling on this.
Yes.
It's just a question of agreeing with the chair and the members who sought the request that it is 3 and 2 weeks respectively.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I empathize with the members in terms of the frustration in getting the answers at the right time from statements. And perhaps what I would like to advise is members to consider whether you will get the information through a statement or a question. You know, the root of a question, the question is answered in the committee by the cabinet secretary. So you have the opportunity to actually interrogate the answer directly. Whereas for the statement, it's read on the floor, and the chair may not be able to have all the background information to answer. So I think for members, it's something you might want to reconsider, whether you will get your answers better through a statement, which is on the floor of the House, or through a question, and we have provided for emergency issues through private notice, which is answered in a very short time within the committee, and you can then be able to interrogate the government officials who come at that level. So perhaps it's a better route than seeking statements or filing petitions, which you may not get the benefit of interrogating the answer that's given. And then we can at least let the committee chairs, instead of investigating for you, they can now concentrate on processing the bills that you've also placed in the committees. I just want to make that appeal to members that we reconsider the better route to get the same information in a more efficient and more direct way. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Makes a lot of sense. I think what the leader majority is saying is that questions were an improvement on the issue of statements and petitions. So the members can take advantage of the fact that the Procedure and House Rules Committee thought it fit that we could also have questions in the circumstances that we are in the circumstances of the Constitution, which separates completely the workings of the legislature and that of the executive. So it's a way that is faster and more efficient. So members, as you bring up your issues, consider the faster ones. But even the ones of the petitions and statement requests are still good, depending on what you want to get. So let's proceed to the next one. That is the chairperson, Committee on Defense and Foreign Relations.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to reply to a statement which was sought by Honorable Aden Duale, on several issues. It was about the illegal detention of Mr. Yasin Juma, a Kenyan journalist who also goes by the name Collins Juma Osiemo. And the Honorable Aden Duale wanted to know the specific measures that the government of Kenya is pursuing to ensure that the said journalist is guaranteed his absolute freedom. 2, he also wanted to know the immediate assistance or facilitation the government of Kenya has accorded to the journalist. And finally, the measures that the government has put in place to safeguard Kenyans from similar treatment abroad. Mr. Speaker, I have all the background information because this Kenyan was arrested on July 2nd, 2020, and he was released on 17th of August, 2020. And our Ministry of Foreign Affairs here in Nairobi has been in constant touch or communication with the authorities of the Ethiopian government through our embassy in Addis Ababa for those 46 days. And I have that report. Is so detailed, but I just want to respond very briefly on the following. One, I want to say that as we speak, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Yasin Juma has since been released. And secondly, Mr. Speaker, the ministry through our missions abroad offers non-monetary consular services to all Kenyans overseas who seek help. For details about the arrest up to the date of release of Mr. Yasin Juma, they are all here attached. But good enough, Mr. Speaker, the Kenyan by the name Yasin Juma is now a free citizen. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. That particular statement was sought by Honorable Aden Duale, so we'll give him the first shot if he's in. Now, then we will go to the Commissioner. Yes, proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the chairman of the Defense and Foreign Relations Committee, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the arrest of Mr. Yasin Juma was malicious, was offensive, and capricious, actually, to the extent that up to now, even after his release, Yasin Juma was not clearly told the offense that he committed. But Mr. Speaker, one thing that really surprises me, in this era of serious diplomatic engagement and globalization, and where this particular arrest actually took place, the neighboring state where we have a lot of institutional linkages like IGAD, AU, and many other institutions, the way we allow neighboring states actually to treat our citizens must form the basis of our diplomatic engagement with that particular country, Mr. Speaker. And because Kenya is a leading regional hub, and therefore it's not a country that can just be taken as just like any other country. And therefore what we expected is not just the arrest and the release. We can't celebrate the release of Yasin Juma on the face of it. He was in detention for over a month. And therefore the explanation that we expected, either we are told as a country, this is the offense that he committed, or we get an apology through the usual diplomatic channels. And this is one thing that, Mr. Chairman, for me, I will not celebrate just the release of Yasin Juma. What will help me celebrate is why was he arrested? Was he convicted? And if anything, if he did something contrary to the law of that particular country, then we need an explanation so that even here, through our diplomatic engagement, through our own institutions, Mr. Yasin Juma can be held accountable. But just saying he has been released while the family has suffered, Chairman, I think that answer lacks serious content, some serious substance, and therefore we need to go back to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and get a better explanation why that particular person was that he was denied. First, he got infected actually with COVID. You must have heard this. He was in isolation for over 15. He did not get the necessary medical attention. And therefore, in every aspect, the basic rights of Mr. Juma actually was really affected. And this is one thing that we need to address as a country so that our citizens all over the world are respected and enjoy their rights, whether they're inside Kenya or outside the country, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, then we will go to, I'm trying to follow this, Honorable Rasso.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I just want to add my voice to what my chairman there has given. Honorable Speaker, one of the difficulties that we see with Ministry of Foreign Affairs is Kenyans who are in distress in those countries. They tell us that they do not have any sort of funding to actually help them. And in this particular case, this Kenyan was arrested, he was in prison, he was sick, and wherever the committee actually asked the ministry, what are you doing? They were telling us that there's no funding. I think to this end, this House must pronounce itself that Kenyans who are in distress, not of their own cause, but caused by what Honorable Kenan said, by almost what we considered a diplomatic dispute between us and a friendly country, then something must be done. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Okay, Honorable Andai. Chair, I'll give a few members, and then you can...
I want to associate myself fully with the sentiments expressed by my colleagues, especially the Honorable Kainan. You know, a sovereign country, sovereign state, such as Kenya, has got a first and foremost responsibility of ensuring the liberty of its citizens within its territory or outside its territory. Mr. Speaker, it is not enough, and indeed, I want to look at the bundle. I haven't read it. I'm sure I'll look at it to see what it contains. But on the face of it, we should have been told clearly that yes, Yasin Juma has been released, or was released, but he had been detained for this and that crime. We must demonstrate as a country that we have got the diplomatic muscle to serve the interests of our citizens from wherever they are. I'm just imagining if it was, for instance, a citizen of the state of Israel being mistreated by a neighboring country. They would leave everything else and go pursue the persons holding their citizen. In this case,
you know what you are now beginning to do.
Yes, I am trying to express my disgust. This day,
even if you are doing it, I mean, you are beginning to address a gathering. Now, you are supposed to just seek some clarifications.
I'm trying to build my case.
We can't move that direction.
So that, okay, let me
and you also have to be fair that other members must also get an opportunity.
So in short, Mr. Speaker, in short, we want a more categorical statement.
Thank you.
From the government as to why Yasin Juma was detained illegally in Ethiopia.
Okay.
That is very important, Mr. Speaker.
That is okay. You are discussed as obviously gone on record. So I have a problem. I want that member at the very end there. Now that must be the member for, yeah, that's the member for Lysamis for sure. Let's hear from the member for Lysamis. I think we're having, what is the number of your seat? 64. Maybe you can come down here. Well, you've just had your say, Honorable. You have had your say, Commissioner. Please. What is it again, Honorable Commissioner Kainan? Yes.
Thank you.
Just a minute, let me work out on this issue of the point of order here.
Two straight to where the indomitable lady, the member for Siaya, seated, and I thought that is a breach of our procedures.
It is a complete breach, and especially for a member who is not new in this house. I know there was a time he was out of this house for some 1 year, but that does not make him a new member. Now, I do not matter. It does not matter whether, you know, by the dint of the person whom you are going to consult probably influenced your action, but go back there to the bar and bow.
Mr. Speaker, I'm informed these days Honorable Wanga and the group represent a new center of power, and that's why I think the member forgot that there are procedures.
Well, he has done what he's supposed to do. So, and that should serve also as a warning that that should not happen, especially for members who understand. And by the way, all members, because even the members who came in for the first term, they are now doing their 4th year now. Proceed, Honorable Member for Lysamis.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to equally add my voice into...
Now, I don't want you to interrupt the member for Lysamis. Honorable Bukose, what is it? What is it?
Honorable Speaker, I know you've corrected Honorable Andai, but you can see the seating. I think with the new powers, now even the social distance is disregarded.
Now, and that coming from a doctor, it is a very serious matter. Really, you know, members, let's take serious the issue of social distance. I mean, especially in the house, we can afford to have this at home, because a member told me that they use these gadgets even at home in different reasons. But let's exercise that particular one, especially in Parliament. Yes, proceed, Honorable Member. Now, I think when you are there, nobody will interfere with and the actual will not allow.
Yeah,
you must seek your clarifications in peace.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Mr. Speaker, the case of Yasin Juma came to the limelight through the media. If it was not for the media, I'm sure no one would have actually known about Yasin Juma. And I just tend to understand that there are so many other Kenyans actually out there where within the East African countries who are neighboring us, who are in police custody, that no one knows about their fate. So it is indeed very important that as a country, we try to strengthen our ties with the neighboring countries on foreign relation matters. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, you can imagine just the other day, in a particular case like Uganda, where our citizens who live around Migingo Island, who are busy trying to go about their daily course to get fish from Lake Victoria, the army from Uganda will just come easily and get hold of them put them in cells, take them all the way to Uganda, and yet nothing is said about their fate. So, Mr. Speaker, and yet even the president of Uganda will also be able to give a statement that Migingo Island belongs to Kenya, while the water belongs to Uganda. So you fail to understand really what is the foreign relation ties between Kenya and Uganda, for that matter.
Okay.
If our people keep on going through this kind of harassment, day in, day out.
I'm sure the chair is listening to that, so that when he can...
Thank you so much,
But let's
Mr.
have
Speaker.
Honorable Mizigi.
Asante Bwana Spika kwa kunipatia hii fursa, na tunashukuru Bwana Spika kupata ripoti hiyo ya kwamba huyu Bwana Yasin aliwachiliwa. Lakini Bwana Spika, ni kweli kuachiliwa kwake peke yake haituridhishi. Tunataka kujua kwamba huyu bwana ni kwa nini alikuwa ameshikwa na akawekwa kwa muda huo. Ni ukweli tuliona kwa runinga na tuliona familia yake vile imeteseka. Tulimuona yeye mwenyewe na vile alidhoofika akiwa pale, mateso aliyoyapata. Na ni vizuri tukifuatilia zaidi tuweze kujua ni shida gani aliweza kushikiwa, na ikiwezekana apewe fidia kwa yale matatizo yalimkumba pale, kama yalikuwa si sawa. Na pia lazima kuna wengine wengi pengine wanaweza kuwa wanashikwa hivyo hovyo, na kwa sababu ya sisi kufuatilia wataachiliwa tu hivyo bila makosa. Kwa hivyo tukifuatilia vizuri mpaka tujue tatizo na tujue kivipi aliachiliwa, basi tutasimamisha mambo kama hayo kuendelea kila wakati. Okay. Asante Bwana Speaker.
Honorable Limo, Meli here. In brief, and then I pick one member from this other side, and it will be
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the issue of Yasin Juma is a matter of national concern. It is a matter that has actually put this country so low in a community of nations, more specifically the East African or the region that we cover. Over the years, Honorable Speaker, it has been known that Kenya is a serious regional bloc. But the way we behave, especially in the foreign affairs, and especially how we treat our citizens when they are in distress, is actually bringing this country down. Honorable Speaker, I think we have had issues, and I think honorable members have just said, even the issue in Uganda, even the truck drivers, even in Tanzania, even in every other part. Honorable Speaker, I just want to mention this to make the foreign affairs to be alert and to bring Kenya where it was previously. Because even if you look in the community of nations, the way a nation is treated before others actually spells how the diplomatic muscle of that country is. So it is a waking up call for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and even for the leadership, so that we have our standing brought back, and we have our respect. Thank you,
Honorable Masara. Honorable Masara, if there is something burning, we can extinguish it the normal way. But let's hear first Honorable Masara.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the statement by the chair is not what we were expecting. Mr. Speaker, the citizens of this country are very important. We can not only talk about Yasin Juma, but any other citizen of this country is or her rights are very important to an extent that we don't expect our neighboring country whom we do business with to detain our people without sufficient reasons, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as things stand, we demand from the Minister of Foreign Affairs what steps and action they are taking to ensure that whatever damage has been done in Yasin Juma's life is compensated, Mr. Speaker.
Okay.
Thank
you. Okay. Honorable Iringo, for this banning thing. No, now there is nothing else after that.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker,
two other statements.
for giving me the opportunity to comment on this banning issue, as I've said. Mr. Speaker, I have a case, a similar case from my constituency, Mr. Speaker, which I brought the question in this House. And the minister replied to the fact that they have not traced the boy and said he's lost in Tanzania. But, Mr. Speaker, I've gone out of my way and inquired, and we have managed to trace the boy in a cell in Itanga, where he has been there for the last 4 years. He has never been taken to court, and there's nothing he has been charged on. He is just at the police cells. I've been going to the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Speaker, but they have done very little to arrest this situation. Mr. Speaker, it is very sad for a young boy who was not even of age to get a ID card. He's trained with other businessmen in Tanzania, and when he was caught because he didn't have any identification, he has been held and languishing in those cells. The minister is doing very little. They have all the details, they have all the facts, but there is nothing doing. I would like to hear what steps will be taken, especially from the chair who is in front of me here, what they are doing, or let them make a follow-up and see that boy is brought back home, Mr. Speaker.
Okay. Well, the chair would just make some, wrap up on it. But on the one by Honorable Iringo, really, I do not expect that you will be responding to that specifically, because he had made a specific question, and therefore must have been answered at that point that he should have intervened. But it is something that you need to see the feeling of members, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And actually, that was, thank you for giving guidance to Honorable Iringo. And even some of the issues raised by other members, Mr. Speaker, the members should know the rules that whatever different from what is on the floor, you need to file a specific statement or request or a question, Mr. Speaker. But having said that, Mr. Speaker, let me tell the House that this response is one of the best we have received from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And Mr. Speaker, I just summarized because it is 5 pages. It is so detailed. And those members who like to pick it from table room, Mr. Speaker, they can go through the daily engagement between our ministry headquarters, with our foreign, with our missions in Addis Ababa, and also with the authorities from Ethiopia, Mr. Speaker. And it is so detailed, it is so thorough, and I repeat, it's one of the best responses we have received from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, let me give the highlights. One, we must also know, Mr. Speaker, that even us, we have foreign nationals in this country. And at times they go against the law, they get arrested. What matters is to take them through the judicial process, and they get their rights. This is what has happened to this Kenyan, Mr. Speaker. When they were arrested, he was arrested with the 4 Ethiopian nationals, Mr. Speaker. They have been taken through the judicial process. On 5th of August, Mr. Speaker, they were taken to the first, they call it the Federal First Instant Court. And Mr. Speaker, they were released on bail, all of them. That is Yasin Juma and the 4 Ethiopian nationals. The following day, 6th of August, Mr. Speaker, the court found that they have no case to answer, Mr. Speaker, and they ordered for their release. Then the following day, again, 7th of August, Mr. Speaker, the Ethiopian authorities appealed to the High Court in Addis, Mr. Speaker, actually in a city called Libeta, sub-city. And the same day, 7th of August, same day of appeal, the High Court upheld the ruling of the lower court, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, the judicial process have been followed, Mr. Speaker. What happened is, when the High Court said, when they upheld the ruling of the lower court, they continued detaining these 5 people. That is Yasin Juma plus 4 Ethiopian nationals. Mr. Speaker, our Ministry of Foreign Affairs wrote what is called the note verbal to the Ethiopian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, demanding that Yasin Juma be released as ordered by the court. Mr. Speaker, on 13th of August, that note verbal was forwarded from Nairobi, addressed to the Ethiopian Foreign Ministry, and in the process, Mr. Speaker, it was found that Yasin Juma had contracted COVID-19, Mr. Speaker. And so he could not be released because he had to be in a quarantine place. And in fact, they even said, the Ethiopian authorities, they told our Kenyan mission in Addis, come pick Yasin Juma, but he is COVID-19 positive. And now our mission in Addis does not have a quarantine facility. So he had to stay for 14 days in the government facility in Addis to, actually it isn't a government, it is actually a police station where they were being put as a quarantine place until he tested negative. And then from there, he was released and is back in Nairobi. So finally, what I just wanted to say, Mr. Speaker, is the due process had taken place. He was represented by 11 volunteer lawyers. So therefore, even us, when we have foreign nationals, here in Nairobi, and then they go against our local laws, they go through that process. And Yasin Juma had gone through that process and is back. But I do not really want us to go against the standing orders 87, specifically one, where we are forbidden from discussing any friendly country so adversely. But I want to say that laws of other countries have to be followed just as laws of our country has to be followed. But finally, Mr. Speaker, allow me to communicate a message from Honorable Aden Duale. He is the one who asked this statement. He has just called me. Unfortunately, he lost his mother. And my condolences and the condolences of this house to him. And he said he got this statement in advance. He is very satisfied with it. He went through it. And that's why I said it is 5 pages. Anyone who read it, you will be satisfied that the Kenyan government, through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, have really done a great job to ensure that Yasin Juma is released. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. That is put to rest. So we go to the next one. And this particular one by the Chairperson Departmental Committee on Land should be probably done quickly and in highlights. Are you there? Yes, you are. Proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I'm responding to a statement sought by the Honorable Jonah Mburu, a member for Lare constituency, and it concerns lifting of an embargo and settling issues surrounding titles for Kinale settlement scheme in Lare constituency in Kiambu County. He sought to know the status of implementation of the recommendations of the report by the Land Administrative Directorate with regard to lifting this embargo. Secondly, the steps the relevant ministry is taking to ensure that the 306 missing parcel numbers in the RIMs and 623 individual green cards that are found and given to the rightful owners. And C, is sought to know when the relevant ministry will settle and conclude this matter with an everlasting solution, considering that the conflict between the residents occupying parcels of land and those with illegal title deeds has been persistent for too long. Honorable Speaker, I would like to respond as follows: that Kinale Forest was declared a forest through Declaration number 48 of 1943, and the forest was declared a central forest through legal notice number 174 of 1964. So it is an old matter, and I will not go to the details. Mr. Speaker, Kinale settlement scheme was therefore established on the escarpment Kinale in the escarpment Kinale block 1. That is what it is called. Planning, survey, identification of squatters, processing of their allocations and issuance of title deeds was done under the leadership of the then provincial administration. And the process was, however, marred with allegations of irregularities that time. The Ministry of Lands and Physical Planning set up a task force in the year 2002 to look into allegations of irregularities in the process. And the task force placed an embargo on the registration of these title deeds, Honorable Speaker. The matter was then taken up by the National Land Commission in 2013, following complaints made to the Commission. Some of the allegations of irregularities in the process of identification by the Ministerial Task Force are captured in the report that is attached and that the honorable member can access. But it touches on the following issues. One is a number of plots had been allocated to undeserving persons. Two, genuine squatters were evicted to give way to new allottees who are not squatters. Three, there were squatters on the ground without any allocation documents. Four, there were cases of double allocations. Five, missing list of original allottees. Five, a number of allocations were on parcels of land reserved for conservation, and that is 6. And 7, allocations had extended beyond the gazetted forest land. Honorable Speaker, following consultations between the Commission and the Ministry of Lands and Physical Planning and the area leadership, a strategy to resolve issues was identified as follows. That first, clearing with the Kenya Forest Service on land degazettement for allocation and the acreages. 2, consultation with the local leadership. 3, constituting a working group for purposes of identifying public purpose plots. 4, forming a technical team from the ministry and also from the National Land Commission. 5, lifting of the embargo on all clean titles by the Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Lands and Physical Planning. 6, ground inspection and verification of disputed records whose embargo will not be lifted. 7, review of allocations falling on public purpose land and those with double allocations. 8, cancellation of titles as per findings by the Commission during the review. And 9, allocation of deserving squatters on any of the land that will be found available. Honorable Speaker, a local committee comprising of the Deputy County Commissioner, representatives of the National Land Commission, the Area County Assembly chiefs and assistant chiefs, and other leaderships was established to handle this matter. Honorable Speaker, a technical committee was also constituted, comprising of officers also from the ministry and also from the National Land Commission for the same purpose, so that they can join the local leadership. The aim was to establish the undisputed titles, and these are the findings. 1, parcels of land without problems, that is the clean titles, are 2,262. 2, parcels with problems, court cases or cautions, 76. Under custody of the registrar, 6. Mentioned in the task force report as having issues, 110. Double allocations, 8. Duplicated numbers in the list, that is in the green card and also in the RIMs, 11. Sheet numbers not indicated on the green cards, 14. Missing parcels of numbers in the RIMs, 306. Duplicated numbers in the RIMs, 5. Parcels in the forest land that are not gazetted, 36. Subdivided parcels but not amended, 61. And Honorable Speaker, missing green cards, 623. Honorable Speaker, as I conclude, the committee made the following recommendations: that the Cabinet Secretary considers lifting the embargo on the clean title deeds, that is the 2,246, so that they can be issued. 2, that it would be prudent to engage the Ministry of Environment and Natural Resources on the gazetting of forest land that was irregularly allocated. Honorable Speaker, in response to A, B, C, D, the Cabinet Secretary stated the following: the embargo on the clean titles has already been lifted, and the owners of the titles have been transacting, so the embargo doesn't exist on the clean titles. And then reconstruction of missing records will be undertaken upon ground inspection and verification of documents from the rightful owners. The missing parcel numbers are likely to be as a result of subdivisions which have not been amended in the registry index map, that is called the RIMs. The ground verification exercise will be undertaken as soon as the Ministry of Health issues or removes the COVID-19 restrictions. And the Cabinet Secretary says that the ministry intends to finalize this activity in the financial year 2020-2021. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And the statement is signed by the Cabinet Secretary for Lands and Physical Planning.
Okay, let's start with the first shot goes to the member who made the request, the member for Larry. Seems not to be there. So then that matter rests. So let's go to, I have information that the Chair Education has a statement response. How long is it likely to take? Because we really don't want to eat too much into the time of the private members' bills and motions.
Mr. Speaker, I'll be very brief.
How many minutes do you require so that I see we take you to the afternoon?
10 minutes?
10 minutes is too much.
5?
5.
Okay, let me try. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is a response to Honorable Wangwe, MP, Navaholo constituency. And his question was to the Cabinet Secretary, Education. And the question reads, could the Cabinet Secretary provide details on how much funds meant for capitation was released in the financial year 2019-2020 and how much is pending to be released to schools? Mr. Speaker, the response reads, in the financial year 2019-2020, the Ministry of Education had a budget of Kenya shillings 59 billion to cater for free day secondary education. And these funds were utilized as shown in a very detailed table there. I'll be very brief on the table because it's very detailed. Term 2, 2019, we released, the ministry released 12 billion, which was a deficit of 2018-2019. Term 3, 2019, the ministry released 20 billion again, 20% disbursement. Term 1, 2020, they released 31 billion. Term 1, 2020, they released 368 million. Term 1, 2020, they released 304 million. CBC training, they gave 300 million. Co-curricular activities, they gave 767 million for AIE co-curricular activities. The total money spent was 58 billion. The approved budget was 59 billion. So they have a total amount of 983, which is yet to be released, Mr. Speaker. The unexpended amount was 983, which was meant to cater for co-curricular activities that were suspended in March due to COVID-19 pandemic. The second question, Mr. Speaker, was could the Cabinet Secretary provide details on the amount of monies under capitation that was allocated for the purchase of textbooks, sports games in both primary and secondary schools in the financial year 2019-2020. Mr. Speaker, let me see how much was released to avoid the... In this connection, the Ministry of Education was utilized a total of Kenya shillings 606 million to procure 2,808,098 textbooks for secondary schools. The ministry has already remitted 368 million to Kenya Institute of Co-curricular Development to start the process of procuring the required textbooks. The remainder of 238 million will be released once the textbooks have been delivered to the targeted schools, Mr. Speaker. On co-curricular activities, the government centrally provides for funding to undertake sports and games. The ministry intended to utilize 1.7 billion to undertake co-curricular activities last financial year. The ministry has so far remitted 767 million to field officers to undertake these co-curricular activities, and the remainder of 983, as indicated, was not utilized because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, could the Cabinet Secretary explain how much funds the ministry has spent on the ongoing Strengthening Mathematics and Science Education in Africa program? Mr. Speaker, the government undertakes a program of strengthening of mathematics and science in secondary education each financial year. In this connection, the Ministry of Education utilized 304 million to undertake the strengthening of mathematics and science education in the financial year 2019-2020. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, aware that the ministry suspended learning institutions in March 2020, could the Cabinet Secretary utilize the capitation funds thereof to infrastructure development in order to comply with the social distance measures recommended by World Health Organization? Mr. Speaker, as indicated in the detailed table in page 1, The budgeted funds were almost exhausted by first term, with only funds being available for co-curricular activities. These unutilized funds lapsed at the end of the financial year. The ministry is now implementing programs based on the approved budget for the current financial 2020-2021 financial year. In this regard, last financial year capitation grants cannot therefore be utilized for infrastructure development. Current financial year's capitation funds are being utilized to pay for essential costs in secondary schools, including water, electricity, administrative costs, and medical insurance, and personnel emoluments. The funds will continue to be released when the schools reopen, as this falls in the current financial year 2020-2021. Signed by Professor George Magoha, Cabinet Secretary, Education and Research. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. Let's have Honorable Wangwe on it.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, allow me to appreciate the Chair for the response that she has given to us. However, the statement lacks mathematical realities, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair, when you look at that statement, which I did, and I want to thank her that she did forward to me on time, and so I did a lot of analysis on the statement. The statement reads in the financial year 2019-2020 that they disbursed at 1,831 million towards the 50%, the share of the 50% of capitation which they were supposed to disburse. Honorable Chair, in this House, we are all representing various constituencies, and we are aware that so much has not been paid in terms of the bills, in terms of BOM teachers, in terms of KPLC bills, in terms of administrative security bills, Honorable Chair. The question is, I want to seek that the Chair convenes a meeting to audit this amount of that 1,831 million. How was it disbursed from the Minister, Honorable Speaker? Honorable Speaker, the Chair has also referred to the last bit of her statement that the budget lapsed, which I appreciate, with a total figure of 983 million, which ended in June, Honorable Speaker, which I appreciate as per the PFM Act. However, from June, Honorable Speaker, to date, we are aware that schools have not opened. And they are saying in that statement, Honorable Speaker, the CS says they will disburse money once the schools open. Yet the schools are going to open in January next year, Honorable Speaker, which we know that all the activities between June to January next year is not going to take effect, Honorable Speaker. Therefore, my request to the Chair is, in the newly convened meeting, let her explain to us how is that money going to be used, and if not possible, if it's not going to be used otherwise, let that money be converted and sent to various constituencies, Honorable Speaker, that we build classrooms for our children so that when they resume in January next year, let them get classrooms which are in good place and in good condition. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Okay, maybe we'll have the last one, Honorable Bukose, I see. That would be the last one. Well, the very, very last will be my good friend, honorable member for Luanda, not Luanda, for Emuhaya.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I first want to ask the Chair for lands on issues of title deeds. I think it's important that as much as the member for Larry asked about his constituency, this is a countrywide issue, Honorable Speaker. And it would be good to have the Cabinet Secretary give us a program for countrywide, because when our people see title deeds are being issued to certain regions and other areas are ignored.
What titles are we talking about, Honorable Bukose?
The issue which she addressed about the title deeds for the people of Lari, which some of them had been.
That one, Honorable Dr. Bukose, is gone.
Okay, fine.
It's gone, and actually the Chair has stepped out. So let's leave that one.
Thank you. I was just raising that, Honorable Speaker, as a by the way. Then the issue that has been addressed in as far as the schools are concerned by the Honorable Florence Mutua, Chair for Education. Honorable Speaker, when you read that statement states that 308 million was released for co-curricular, that's for the purchase of textbooks. And what you realize is that the whole of the 1 year is now gone, which means we would want the Ministry of Education not to purchase other books for this for the coming year, because they used the 2019-2020 financial year to purchase that. Can they take now the money for this financial year, the 2020-2021, instead of purchasing other books to add on the top of the books they are going to purchase, to be able to put it into infrastructure development that can accommodate social distances?
Okay. Member for Emuhaya, Honorable Omboko Milemba.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I think commenting on the issue on education and agreeing with Wangwe, it's an area that will continuously bring a lot of questions. And I happen to be a member of the Education Committee. So I think the advice that are already given by Wangwe, and which I think we shall adopt, is to actually call the minister, because the capitation is given, Honorable Speaker, as follows: 50% in first term, 30% second term, and 20% in third term. But within that bracket, there are allocations. So currently, schools are not on. But there is a minimum labor in schools and other things that needs to be done. So you'll find the honorable members under task to actually explain why these things are not working. And that's why the question on how much can be released to schools, even in the absence of schools being on, because there's a minimum cost of maintaining the schools during the COVID time so that we get them live when they open. And therefore, it is an issue that I think, as a committee, we need to bring the minister to book, and it will happen with all other committees and ministries. But because education is very touchy to everybody and every member here, it will keep on cropping up anytime and many times. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Okay. I'm sure the chair has heard that. You have anything to say to it, and then we close it, because they are fairly just comments.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I stand here, let me just assure the members that there are very key stakeholder meetings taking place right now, even as we speak, on the issues of schools reopening. And as a committee, we have raised the issue of having the infrastructure put in place, because when the CS appeared before us virtually, he confirmed that he's going to work on ensuring that infrastructure is in place before the schools reopen.
Okay.
So I want to trust his word.
Okay.
We will need desks, we will need more classrooms, we will need sanitizers, and we will need masks. He has appeared before the committee virtually, and he actually laid out how he wants this done. Time is running out, so we are hoping the CS will be able to move with speed and do what is necessary before the schools reopen. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Now, as we go to the next order, I realize that Honorable Gikaria was actually in other holding areas and did not ask his question. But Honorable Gikaria, in future, when you know you have a question, you must make a point of coming to the main chamber. We cannot call you from the holding grounds. Proceed and ask your question.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity, and I want to thank you again. I was held at that place. Honorable Speaker, I beg to ask question number 170 of 2020. Could the Cabinet Secretary provide details of the registration status of prevailing Sacco as at September 2019? 2, what steps is the Ministry taking to comply with the ruling made by the High Court in Nakuru following the application for judicial review number 2 of 2015 by the Sacco officials due to the registration of the Sacco by the Commissioner of Cooperative Development? 3, and the last one, in light of the recent outcry by members of the public over being hoodwinked by prevailing Sacco, what action is the Ministry taking to ensure that the innocent members of the public are protected from manipulation by the Sacco? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Very well, that will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Trade, Industry and Cooperatives. So we go to the next order.
Order number 8, the Health Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 64 of 2019. Second reading. question to be put.
Yes, what's the point of order? What is the point of order?
Madam Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity. Just before you moved in, the chair of education was putting emphasis on certain matters relating to capitation.
Order.
I wanted to...
You're actually out of order. I hope you are seasoned member. We are already through with that order number. So we're in a different order. So, yeah, it is important to you, but I know you know the procedures of the House. Order. You're out of order, but you can raise it on a different forum. Order, members. Order, members. Order. Order. Order, members, I confirm from the chamber and other sitting areas that we are properly constituted for us to be able to put the question on order number 8. And I move to put the question that the Health Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 64 of 2019 be now read a second time. Members, will as many as of the opinion say aye? Aye. And as many as of contrary opinion say nay? Honourable members, the ayes have it. Next order.
A bill for an act of Parliament to amend the Health Act. Order number 9, the Sexual Offences Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 24 of 2020, first reading. A bill for an act of Parliament to amend the Sexual Offences Act 206 to provide for the manner of correction, analysis, tracking, and access to forensic evidence relating to sexual assault and for connected purposes. Order number 10, the Insurance Professionals Registration Bill, National Assembly Bill number 25 of 2020, first reading. A bill for an act of Parliament to make provisions for the establishment of the Insurance Institute of Kenya and the Insurance Professionals Examinations Board to provide for examination, registration, and regulations of standards and practice of insurance professionals and make provision for matters concerned therewith and incidental thereto.
Next order.
Order number 11, the Pensions Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 26 of 2020, first reading. A bill for an act of Parliament to amend the Pensions Act and for connected purposes.
Very well. Next order.
Order number 12, the Cancer Prevention and Control Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 65 of 2019, second reading.
The second reading. Can we have the mover, the Honorable Gladys Wanga, MP, to move the second reading of the same?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to move the second reading of the Cancer Prevention and Control Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 65 of 2019. Madam Speaker, I'd like to start by thanking very much the Departmental Committee on Health, who have helped in shepherding this bill, conducted public participation, brought in views from various stakeholders to make this bill all the richer. Madam Speaker, the Constitution of Kenya 2010, in Article 43, provides that every Kenyan has a right to the highest attainable standards of health, Madam Speaker. And one of the things that, one of the diseases that has come in to really hamper this right to health is cancer, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, cancer is not only a health issue, it also results in economic catastrophe for the families of the persons that it hits, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this bill follows a motion that the House passed in 2015, which was moved by myself
that was speaking to the training of oncologists. The motion provided that the Ministry of Health should provide funding for training at postgraduate level for one oncologist at least for every of the 47 counties at postgraduate level. And once you finish your training, the motion said that you do not disappear elsewhere. You go back to the facility, to the county where you are from, so that you provide services there, at least for a given period of time, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, following the passing of that motion, I am pleased that the Ministry of Health introduced a local 4-year Masters in Medicine in Radiation Oncology, Madam Speaker, a training program that has so far trained a number of oncologists, Madam Speaker. And if you want to know, Madam Speaker, the shortage that we are facing of oncology professionals in this country, we have just about less than 40 oncologists, only 16 radiation oncologists, only 10 medical physicists, 27 therapy radiographers, and 3 nuclear medicine physicians, Madam Speaker. For 47 million Kenyans, those are the oncology professionals that we have in this country. To say that it's a shortage is an understatement, Madam Speaker. If you try to seek medication, Madam Speaker, for cancer, you would wait on queue for such long periods of time. The few oncologists that we have, most of them are also concentrated around Nairobi and the other big cities. So if you're talking about having cancer in Masabit or in deep down Homa Bay, Gwasi maybe, or in Vanga, in Kwale, Madam Speaker, then it becomes almost a death sentence, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this bill provides for 3 key things. One is to make provision for training of health cadres in the specialized medical field of oncology. These include, of course, medical oncologists, pediatric oncologists, radiation oncologists, oncology nurses and physicists and other healthcare providers. Secondly, Madam Speaker, it seeks to include cancer treatment as part of the provision of primary healthcare. Madam Speaker, if you walk into a dispensary or a health center in the village, or Nyagoro Health Center, where I come from in Kochia, in Rangwe constituency, Madam Speaker, and I say that I'm having pain in my chest, they will probably just say, are you coughing? Are you doing this or the other? And release you. But that may be a sign of something deeper. So what we are saying is, at this very low level, our medical providers should be trained. The clinical officer you find there or the nurse should be able to check perhaps if you could be having breast cancer, should be able to check basically for the lump, should be able to conduct the CA cervix, should be able to conduct basic diagnosis. Because, Madam Speaker, the difference in recovery for cancer, for those who are diagnosed early and late diagnosis, is worlds apart. Whether you die of cancer or not is dependent on how early, Madam Speaker, the cancer is diagnosed. If it is diagnosed early, you are able to then seek treatment and survive more easily than if it is diagnosed late. So if we introduce cancer, diagnosis and so on, and treatment as part of the primary healthcare package, then you're able to capture this early. The other part of this bill, Madam Speaker, is the issue of e- and telemedicine. And I think this has also been widely covered within the Health Act. And Madam Speaker, if I am sitting somewhere in Moyale with a patient and I am not sure what is happening to that patient, as a general practitioner in Moyale, I should be able to contact by email, by Zoom, by Skype, by e-technology, a doctor sitting at Kenyatta National Hospital to be able to advise me on how to move how best to move the patient forward. And this is what we are talking about here, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we have been in this COVID season, and COVID has even made us, first of all, has exposed the weaknesses in our healthcare system. There are deep weaknesses in the healthcare system that COVID has exposed, Madam Speaker. When we now said, every county, please tell us how many ICU beds you have, that is when you saw counties, many had zero. They had to start arranging how to get ICU beds, Madam Speaker. So while it has exposed that, we might also bury our heads in the sand to try and deal with COVID alone and forget about some of these most pressing health priorities in this country. And as I said, Madam Speaker, capacity building for our healthcare workers is a very, very key priority, and COVID should not make us forget what we are going through as a country in terms of the healthcare burden. Madam Speaker, the increased burden on an already stretched healthcare system demands new and dynamic ways of operating. And these proposed amendments serve to ensure the responsiveness of the healthcare system to the ever-evolving nature of cancer prevention and control, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I'd like to say that it would be an exercise in futility to have the necessary infrastructure. And Madam Speaker, I have proposed another bill that I presented to the Budget Committee that would ensure that each and every of our 47 counties have a level 5 facility. Because, Madam Speaker, currently, you have only 11 level 5 facilities. If you come to the Homa Bay, there is no level 5 facility. And we do not know how to move our level 4 facility to a level 5 facility because there is no proper system of accreditation, Madam Speaker, for these healthcare facilities. And if we can have our level 5 facilities in each and every county, it would really go a long way in helping us and also make them national referral facilities. Because, Madam Speaker, the excuse we make for failing healthcare all the time, if you say, why did a patient die here, the national government will say, health is devolved. Why is this hospital and this healthcare is devolved? We cannot leave the lives of Kenyans to a ping-pong game between the national and the county governments. Everyone must take responsibility, and we must look at the way we devolved healthcare. Is it working? Are our hospitals working better because healthcare has been devolved in the manner in which it has been? That is a question we must answer, and that is why we are proposing that the level 5 facilities should be national referral facilities so that they are managed jointly by the national government and the county governments so that we can move that forward. Madam Speaker, as I said, if we do not build capacity for our healthcare workers, even the infrastructure would be in futility, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, let us support. I would like to urge my colleagues to support this bill so that we can avail training to our medical practitioners so that we have more people who can take care, more doctors that can take care of our oncology needs as a country. Madam Speaker, with those many remarks, I beg to move and to ask the Honorable Member for Ndiwa, Honorable Martin.
Yes, Honorable. Let's just give her 30 seconds to just
move. Thank you. I beg to move and ask the Honorable Martin Peters Owino, a renowned healthcare professional, a former CEC of health in Homa Bay County, to second. Thank you.
Very well. The Honorable Member for Ndiwa to second.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to second this bill, the Cancer Prevention and Control Bill 2019. And Madam Speaker, let me first of all say how I commend Honorable Wanga. Herself being a survivor of cancer has not relented and has taken on the bull by the horns to ensure that other people can be saved from this disease. That is commendable, Madam Speaker. It should be known that cancer has moved up in our epidemiological chart to number 3 after infectious diseases and cardiovascular diseases. that means it's affecting many people. And the bill that Honorable Wanga has moved, Madam Speaker, is going to do the following, which is encouraged to be done as quickly as possible. And we really ask members to support this bill immediately. One, Section 2, that is introducing telemedicine. Madam Speaker, many people are still very poor. If you go to my rural constituency in Dewa, somebody having cancer in Godpoko, very remote area, terrain area, and you want her to go to Eldoret, to come to Kenyatta, it can't work. But this bill of e-health or telemedicine is not a new phenomenon. It is being used in many settings. That is, you can take the images and send them for interpretation by the people who are experts, even if you are in a rural setting. So that bill, Section 2, is amended to introduce that telemedicine. I think that is straightforward. Section 5 is to expand the scope of National Institute of Cancer in collaboration with the county government. Madam Speaker, let me say a little bit of this, because some of these conditions, as Honorable Wanga said clearly, are diagnosed or detected as a late stage. Stage 1 and 2 passes always. We catch cancers among the people in stage 3 and 4. At that time, treatment is very elusive, and what people do, even if you go to India or where, it's just introduction of palliative care, actually. But we lose patients. The mortality rate for this disease is so high because the early detection is not done. So this Section 5 is going to expand the National Cancer Institute work to include primary health care, having cancer screening in primary health care, including vaccination when we talk of PPV. And what that will do, Madam Speaker, is that even the local community health workers can encourage the mothers to do self-examination. So if they feel a lump on the breast, they can report to the clinic and be transferred upwards. So if we can catch them, stage 1, stage 2, then that is where the treatment efficacy is high, and many can live with those conditions. So what we are trying to say is that we don't want to sit in higher institutions like National Institute of Cancer or MTRH, Kenyatta, and wait for people to get infected, and then they come at later stage. And then we buy heavy machines to do radiotherapies and all this. It doesn't work that way. So what we are trying to say, expand these services, collaborate with the county government, because healthcare is devolved, so that we can catch these conditions earlier when they are still treatable. Madam Speaker, there are so many types of cancers that we are dealing with right now. Breast cancer, mostly in women, and cervical cancer, colorectal cancer, chronic leukemia, and prostate cancers. All this, and I urge fellow members, please, even if there is nothing wrong, get checked up, especially when we are beyond 40. It used to be 50, now even by 40 years of age, you are vulnerable. Go for checkup. Lastly, Section 31, as alluded by the mover, is going to expand the training, capacity building for oncologists, radiotherapists, and all these cadres that handle. But that said, Madam Speaker, let us also inculcate the preventive and control measures rather than wait for therapy. I second.
Your second. I can allow the members who are walking out just do so. No, let me give them. Order members, I propose a question, which is that the Cancer Prevention and Control Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 27 of 2019, be now read a second time. Members, before, who is this member who is abstaining? Has not been. Members, before debate, please refer to your own notice
the resolution of the Tuesday, September 8th, 2020, that each member contributing will have 5 minutes. That is a resolution of the House pursuant to Standing Order number 97-1, of course, for your planning. The first one will be the member for Kisumu East.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to thank my dear sister, Madam Gladys, Mheshimiwa Gladys, and the Seconder, Onawino, for bringing this very, very important bill. Cancer control has been a major problem in this country. And my Honorable Gladys Wanga was giving some statistics about the number of oncology specialists in this country. It is a sad thing to say that in Manchester and London, if you put the number of Kenyan doctors together who are oncologists and nuclear specialists, they are more than the whole of Kenya. The reason is they are valued in that country. They are not valued in this country. And in this country, this cancer patients are being taken for a ride. They are being cheated left, right, and center by conmen and quacks who've come and opened up small clinics, allegedly giving out treatment to cancer patients. Cancer patients are coming from all over the country to come to some of these so-called substandard units built together with some of the oncologists who are working at Kenyatta National Hospital. And they are skimming poor people. Now that NHIF is giving certain money towards cancer, it has become more of a scam. A person who comes here for simple treatment is asked for 90,000 shillings up front. Then the insurance companies have now also jumped onto this particular scam. So I think what is doing, despite the fact that we have the cancer bill, and I think it's very important that we cascade down to Kisumu and Homa Bay and other places where simple diagnosis of cancer, if possible, can be done. But thereafter, I think we also need to crack up on these so-called quacks and these so-called institutions that are here, because the patient, if my mother or my father or my brother or somebody is with cancer, I'm going to go and do whatever I can, even if I don't eat the meal for that day. So I think that is a major problem, and I think we need to sort out that particular problem. And I'm going to consult with the bill to see how we can utilize that particular thing to say that these conmen, and I could even mention some. My own secretary, her mother is going somewhere, and they are telling her to wait. She goes there 3 times, come from Nakuru. They tell her to wait because they haven't got the approval from NHIF, or they haven't got approval from Siemens, and she has to pay 90,000. She's a villager. So the unfortunate thing is, I'm sure all of us members of Parliament have people who have got cancer, and they are being taken for a ride. I speak, Madam Chair, as the former chairman of the New Nyanza General Hospital at that time. I have been in health management on a voluntary basis for nearly 30 years of my life, or more. And I think that this country must now stamp out the charlatans. And those charlatans who are calling themselves oncologists, if they've not been properly qualified, let them be qualified. And then what we are saying is, and Madam says, that we should train them for a year. Yes, train them, but also tie them down. So they should be here. And I think there should be a fund, like where the specialists can be paid a certain amount. Madam Speaker, with those few remarks, I thank you.
The member for nominated member Holles Sankok David 001.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity.
because I came to this house very early in the morning so that I can really support this bill. Honorable Speaker, I would like to start by congratulating Honorable Gladys Wanga for such a very important bill. She herself is a survivor of cancer, and she has seen it very important for her to bring such a bill so that we can save more cancer patients, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, Honorable Gladys Wanga is also an inspiring governor, and I'm sure health services being devolved will be very important for her because she's really passionate about saving others like her who may have been affected by cancer. Honorable Speaker, cancer is almost becoming...
Is it part of your debate, or you tried to campaign for
cancer?
Or you're...
You know, we have to package our message so that it can go down well.
If that is the case, then that is quite in order.
Thank you. So, Honorable Speaker, cancer is almost becoming a pandemic in Kenya. And as we stress so much on infrastructure, on building of level 5 hospitals, level 6 hospitals, and also purchasing of equipment, radiology equipment, Honorable Speaker, we also need to focus so much on the human resource part of it. Because you can have so many radiology machines, you can have very beautiful infrastructure, but without the necessary and relevant personnel, we will not be going anywhere, Honorable Speaker. That's why I support this bill in terms of training of our medical personnel so that we have them in the relevant field that will assist our people from dying from cancer. Honorable Speaker, and I want to request Honorable Wanga to see the bill on formation of the Medical Services Commission, which was in front of this House, because I'm sure it will cure most of our problems we have in the training of relevant medical officers and also in the placement of the said medical personnel in the needed areas of our country, so that we don't have all our specialists being in Nairobi or in our cities, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, and this House must come up with relevant policies to make sure that as we train our oncologists, let us not commercialize the training of our oncologists so that we don't have only the rich accessing to such training. We should come up with funds that will ensure that we train our personnel, and as the bill is indicating, is that we should tie them down so that if we train a medical officer who is working in Wajir in oncology, he will or she will have to go back to Wajir and stay in that hospital for a period of, let's say, 10 or so years, like a contracting training, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the Jubilee Party was elected on the basis that it will form a digital government. Honorable Speaker, we also need to digitalize consultation so that we have what we call telemedicine, Honorable Speaker. We can even go further and have a digital hospital, even if it is in our capital city, so that doctors can consult whenever they have patients, they can consult via the channels, the digital channel, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, if we train, we will not be losing as a country if we train medical personnel. We'll be gaining as a country because, Honorable Speaker, we can even have foreign exchange in terms of medical tourism, Honorable Speaker. We can be the hub for East and Central Africa and even for the whole of Africa for medical tourism for those seeking treatment of cancer, Honorable Speaker. So, Honorable Speaker, with those very many remarks, I do really support this particular bill. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Very well. Let me have the member for Elders, Bravo Keinani Adan, Commissioner.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, pursuant to Article 43 of the August 2010 Constitution, provision of proper health care is a cardinal responsibility of any civilized government. Madam Speaker, I want to take this opportunity to thank the Honorable Wanga. I know as a former commissioner and having served with her, I know the challenges that she has gone through, and as a survivor, I want to thank her for thinking out of the box and bringing this bill, because cancer today is #1 killer, actually, even before the current COVID-19 crisis came into being. In the county like Wajir, where I come from, there are so many deaths that are attributed to cancer, even without proper diagnosis. And I think the object and reason for this particular bill, first, is to update the existing Cancer Prevention and Control Act by bringing in new definitions, like what Honorable, my good friend here, Sankok has alluded to. Digitization of government services was one of the critical components of the Jubilee agenda, and I believe this bill, I know Wanga is not in Jubilee, but we are right now there's something called cohabitation and cooperation. I thank you for bringing this bill, because you are adding value to the realization and implementation of the Jubilee agenda by having government services digitized, and I thank you on that note. Secondly, by bringing in definitions of e-health, telemedicine. These are things that ought to have been done, and it's part of the modern day medical services, actually. Madam Speaker, as we attempt to deal with this, we must also think of the issue of brain drain. What the Honorable Shakil has just alluded to. This country is not short of some of the best brains, but because of the way we treat them, like they move to other parts of the world. And if you go to the US, UK, and all other developed countries, some of the best medical practitioners are Kenyans. The reason why they cannot be accommodated here, Madam Speaker, is because of lack of facilities, lack of incentives, lack of proper training, lack of proper accommodation.
Honorable Wanga. Honorable Wanga.
Madam,
no, Honorable Wanga, it's your bill, and you must also have decorum with the understanding of the House, so that at least the members can really.
I'm sure
and
you
know what I mean. And these members who are disturbing Honorable Wanga, you should know her bill is being moved, and if she wants to consult, she must go behind, do the necessary, and cross over. So, Wanga, please allow your bill. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm sure you will compensate the 2 minutes that you have taken out of my 5 minutes. Madam Speaker, one of the things right now we must be prepared to address, and I thought the gracious lady from CIA will be around to listen to the great contributions from many members, so that as you look at this will even inform amendments, by the way. Don't just be contented with the provisions that you have given, because members might generate more critical suggestions that will enrich the bill. That's why it's imperative that the move of the bill actually is around. Madam Speaker, we need to look at this from two aspects, both curative and preventive dimensions, so that today, and this has a bit of linkage, correlation with the bill that we just passed today by Dr. Misra. Madam Speaker, commercialization of cancer-related cases is one of the things that we are in that particular bill, and the mushroom of cartels. Like you go to a particular facility, because the doctor or the medical practitioner there is not adequately prepared to diagnose this. Today, and cancer has become a lifestyle disease. Today, it's only the rich who can access cancer-related medical services, Madam Speaker. And this is why this bill will enable, and I'm sure some few years ago it was difficult even to talk about cancer. It was an abomination. It was a curse. Today is a reality. It's a lifestyle disease. It's something that we must live with. What we need to do as the leadership of this country, Madam Speaker, pursuant to Article 43, is now to provide the enabling environment in order to assist Kenyans who have been affected by this particular disease. And this is something that can happen to anybody, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to thank Honorable Gladys. Look at it. You belong to the privileged class. And I'm sure that's why today you are surviving by the grace of God. Look at the common people on the ground and suggest further amendments that can inform the county government, because health is devolved, so that they are also obligated by law to provide these critical health care services. If we don't do that, Mr. Speaker, a healthy nation is a critical aspect, is a critical line actually to development. of any country. So this is why today health is a major issue, it's a major is a global issue, and I'm glad that this has come, and I'm also told that you aspire to be a governor. But before we even reach there, can we force the current governors to properly prepare the ground and have the necessary health facilities for cancer-related cases? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Very well. The member for Funyula, Honorable Ondo Ojambo.
Honorable Speaker, thank you for this opportunity to contribute. Let me also take this opportunity to thank the Honorable Gladys Wanga for sponsoring the bill before us today. Honorable Speaker, a health and proper health is one of basic needs of a human being. It's one of the issues contemplated in the Constitution of Kenya, being as a basic need and a basic requirement. Honorable Speaker, as we focus on coronavirus, we are losing an extremely important fight, and that fight is the fight for control and management of cancer. We seem to be so overburdened or overexcited, so to speak, with the corona to an extent that we have forgotten the major killer in this country being cancer. Honorable Speaker, the impact of cancer is beyond medical. It's beyond medical. It is much, much more. The psychological effect, knowing that in many cases, cancer has no treatment, is more or less like a death sentence. It is an economic issue because the cost of treating cancer in this country and elsewhere in the world, it is exorbitant and beyond the reach of many families. As much as health insurance, NHIF, those who can afford, pays part of the bill, many times the families are left on their own to try and find out how to sort out the bill. As elected members of Parliament, and I'm sure my colleagues will know, we attend so many harambes, raising funds for treatment of cancer. Honorable Speaker, the amendments being proposed in this bill are timely and good. However, Honorable Speaker, probably the greatest challenge is not necessarily training. The University of Nairobi and many other medical schools have opportunities to train. But Honorable Speaker, many of the students or many of the practitioners probably not wish to go into this training because of lack of adequate equipment, lack of ability to diagnose early enough. Many of them feel so hurt that whatever much they do, they can only offer palliative care to a dying patient whose very well they know we are not going to save. That's why probably the issue of e-medicine or e-health being proposed in this bill could be a game changer, in which event, even the absence of material equipments for testing and the rest, anybody in the remote villages of Seoport, Port Victoria, Wajir or wherever it is, Eldas, wherever it is, can forward to a dedicated center somewhere in Nairobi or major hospitals, and they could assist diagnosis and return the results in a timely manner so that any intervention measures can take place. Honorable Speaker, of course we must guard on the issue of cyber security because medical records are private and confidential. The fear of them being leaked out or hacked into the system is real, and we must, as we devise a system, we must put this in mind to avoid a situation whereby your medical records become public knowledge even before you yourself know the results. Honorable Speaker, the issue of county governments, Honorable Speaker, I think it is necessary as a country, we must sit down and reflect that we were extremely wrong, and with due respect to my colleagues who wish to become governors in the next term, that we are probably extremely wrong to have devolved health care. It's a debate we must have, and have soberly, without fear of reprimand or political reprisal. We must have that debate. With those few remarks, I support the bill and I request my colleagues to support as well. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Very well. Let me have the member for Navakholo, Honorable Wangwe Emmanuel, who is also the...
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want to, on the onset, support the bill and thank my colleague, Honorable Wanga, for these wonderful thoughts. It's not easy to think and come up with a bill which subscribes to this kind of standards. Honorable Speaker, I support this bill because of the foregoings that we have in the society. Today, everywhere you look at, including ourselves here, in one way or another, we have been affected by either patients at our homes suffering from cancer or who has left us because of cancer. This is something that is real, which we must look at. Honorable Speaker, one thing that makes me happy about this bill is the linkage that it has with the bill that we passed this morning, the Health Amendment Bill by Honorable Mishra, which establishes the medical tourism. Honorable Speaker, when you look at this bill that Honorable Wanga is proposing to us, is going to enable that bill to achieve its main objective as it is, Honorable Speaker. How, Honorable Speaker? Personnel is very key to achieve the medical tourism. When we want to bring in more and more patients into the country, they'll come and be attended by personnel. Honorable Speaker, since she is proposing that we have various cadres of oncology training, that is very key, meaning healthcare standards of our country is going to be very high. And with that in mind, Honorable Speaker, we will really be growing as a country in terms of economy, at the same time in terms of our health. We will be able now to compete with the rest of the country. Honorable Speaker, as we talk about oncology, it's a key area where, Honorable Speaker, as a representative of the people of Navakholo, I want to thank one Professor Wasike, who is a professor of oncology, Honorable Speaker, and whom I shared with this bill before I came here. He was very happy, and he really impressed it and said, this will really put a lot of relief to the medical care of the medical staff who are really squeezed in terms of the ratio of doctors to the patients, meaning they'll download, Honorable Speaker, some responsibilities to lower professionals to help manage those people who are suffering from cancer. Honorable Speaker, one thing that Honorable Wanga has thought of, and which is good, is the issue of telemedicine. Read together, Honorable Speaker, with the e-health. Meaning, Honorable Speaker, that if you are in the village where I come from in Sisohe, where I come from myself, people there, Honorable Speaker, will be easier and possibly move to the nearest medical center, Honorable Speaker, get access online, and be assisted from as far as India, from as far as Europe. A medical professional is observing the kind of the suffering the patient is having. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, anchoring this into law is going to ease the burden of imagining of traveling from home or from Kenya to another distance, or from Kakamega coming to Nairobi simply because you want to see an oncologist who could have read your image online and advise the doctor wherever you are, Honorable Speaker. It will save time, it will save costs in terms of expenses, and Honorable Speaker, I want to thank Honorable Wanga that she has really thought on behalf of us and on behalf of the many Kenyans to make it possible that we look at the issues of cancer from that kind of perspective, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, medical health care is very expensive. And the moment you resolve in terms of medical costs, it will really ease each and every pocket from of a Kenyan in terms of being able to live a better life, Honorable Speaker. And Honorable Speaker, cancer is both hereditary and a lifestyle disease. I wish to remind all of us that as we approach, we look at the solution of attending to cancer patients, Honorable Speaker, let us also improve on our lifestyle. Let us also be careful in terms of how we associate ourselves. If we are taking too much of a certain substance which is which can cause cancer, let's see and improve on that kind of approach. The issues of hereditary, we can leave it to the genetics to take its course, but the issue of lifestyle, Honorable Speaker, let us observe, let's invite nutritionists so that at least we can see which way can we live better. With those in mind, with those very many remarks, Honorable Speaker, I beg to support.
You beg to support. I give the floor to the member for Molo, the Honorable Kimani Kuria.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. And from the onset, I would like to congratulate my chairperson of the Committee of Finance and National Planning for coming up with this very great bill. Madam Speaker, I would like to start from the onset that this Kenya has invested a lot in infrastructure. Infrastructure meaning buildings. If you go to every constituency, every county, each governor is building a dispensary here and another dispensary there. The next thing they've done, Madam Speaker, with the help of the Ministry of Health, is to buy a lot of equipment. And no wonder we have the current case of the MES equipment that has been supplied across the county. When I was having the Committee of Public Accounts Committee, Madam Chair, you and I had the privilege of visiting some of these hospitals across the country. And go to a very small dispensary somewhere in Siaya that has all this equipment worth millions of shillings. But Madam Speaker, the surprise was there was no personnel to operate this equipment. And therefore, Madam Speaker, the bill by the Honorable Wanga that says we must hire these professionals, we must train them. This is the only way we are going to fight this cancer and streamline our health sector. I think it's probably because it's very easy to get quick bucks on these constructions and buying of this equipment, and probably not the same if we are recruiting these professionals. And that's why probably the emphasis has not been on this personnel, Madam Speaker. I'm a little disappointed at what COVID has done to this country. Not just that it has exposed the rottenness of our health sector, but most importantly, for the last few months, the Ministry of Health has been reduced to the Ministry of COVID, the Ministry of Corona. Madam Speaker, even though this is a pandemic that you know has a has an impact of affecting very many people and causing very many deaths, cancer alone, Madam Speaker, kills 30,000 people every year. So in as much as we are very afraid of COVID, we have recorded around 500 deaths in 6 months. But we continue to kill 30,000 people every year. And I'm thinking, if the emphasis of reporting, of contact tracing, of monitoring the behavior of COVID is the same that we use for the other infectious diseases that we know can be prevented, can be treated, would be the same we've given this COVID thing attention, then I think cancer would be a thing of the past for this country. So I'm looking forward to, even after COVID, to a time when we'll have a weekly address, a fortnightly address, a monthly address by the Minister for Health, saying this is how we have dealt with cancer, this is how we have dealt with malaria, this is how we are dealing with diarrhea, this is how we are dealing with HIV, because these diseases are killing many more Kenyans than COVID ever will, even if it would transmit as much as it has done in other countries, Madam Speaker. The issue of e-health cannot be more timely. We have seen, Madam Speaker, that during this COVID, even Parliament, when we thought we could not address our business virtually, we have done a lot of committee sittings. We've transacted a lot of business in the comfort of our office, in the comfort of our homes. This shows that ICT is the way to go, and not just in terms of holding our meetings by Zoom, but even in terms of healthcare, in terms of tourism, in terms of education, and every sector. And therefore, this bill cannot be more timely. Let us encourage Honorable Wanga. Let us support this bill. Let us pass it. And most importantly, let's see its implementation towards curing this disease, this monster called cancer in this country for once and for all. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Very well said. Very well. Let me have the member for Ingembe South, the Honorable Mwingi Paul. The Honorable Mwingi Paul.
Asante sana, Bi Speaker. Bi Speaker, nimesimama kuchangia mswada huu ambao umeletwa na Mheshimiwa Gladys. Na niseme ni mswada ambao umekuja wakati mzuri, Bi Speaker, na mswada ambao utasaidia Wakenya wengi kutoka kule mashinani Bi Speaker, wale wananchi ambao tunawakilisha katika bunge hili. Bi Speaker, wakati ambapo Bi Gladys anasema yanafaa kuwa na, ama kunafaa kuwa na mafunzo, ni ukweli, sababu watu wengi kusafiri kutoka kule mashinani wakienda nchi za nje kuenda kutafuta matibabu kule, ila hali katika taifa hili tuko na watafiti wa kutosha. Kitu ambacho kimekosa ni mafunzo kuhusu huu ugonjwa wa saratani, na wale ambao wanafaa kuwa wanasinikiza yale matibabu katika zile hospitali zetu za kule chini ama kule katika majimbo. Bi Speaker, wakati ambapo haya mafunzo yataweza kuidhinishwa na kusisitizwa yawe yakifanyika hapa, na wale watafiti wengi waanze kuwa ama wao wanafunzwa, Bi Speaker, watu wengi katika taifa hili wataweza agalau kujua afya ama kujua hali zao za afya. Manake saa zingine mtu ugundua ya kwamba ako na ama ako na saratani akiwa katika kiwango cha mwisho, na ile jambo upelekea familia nyingi kutumia hela nyingi, manake wanajua dakika ya mwisho. Lakini wakati ambapo katika hospitali zetu, wakati ambapo haya matibabu yatakuwa yanaangaziwa, wakati ambapo mgonjwa akienda hospitali pia ili jambo linakuwa la kwanza kuangaliwa, Bi Speaker, watu wengi wataweza pia kupona, sababu watakuwa wanajua hali zao mapema pale hospitali. Kitu kingine, Bi Speaker, hospitali zetu tuko na hospitali zingine ziko na vifaa za kutosha, lakini watu ambao wanatumika ama wale ambao wanafaa kutumia hizi vifaa hatuna, sababu hakuna mafunzo ambayo yamepeanwa kwao ili wajue jinsi ya kutumia zile mashine ambazo zinatumika katika kufanya utafiti katika ugonjwa huu. Alafu kitu kingine, serikali ambayo iko kwa sasa, Bi Speaker, katika manifesto yake ilikuwa imeangazia sana kufanya kazi kidijitali.
Honorable member for Ingembe, I have a member on intervention. Knowing the intervention button. What the honorable member for Central Imenti? You have an issue?
No, I wanted to contribute.
Yeah, when you want to contribute, you don't go to intervention. Then yes, now my intervention is clear. Yes, honorable, carry on.
Serikali ya siku, Madam Bi Speaker, ilikuwa imepanga kufanya kazi kidijitali, na katika mswada huu, Bi Speaker, unaangazia vile ambavyo zile hospitali ama vile ambavyo wadau wa kufanya ama wale watu wanaofaa kufanya haya matibabu, vile ambavyo wanaweza kuwa wanaweza kupata mafunzo ama matibabu kutoka hospitali nyingine ama kutoka kwa watafiti wengine, wale ambao wako na wanajua zaidi. Na wakati ambapo zile vipimo ambazo zimefanywa katika hospitali zimetumwa kule, hakutakuwa na haja ya mtu kutembea kuenda hospitali nyingine iko mbali, ila hali matibabu anaweza kuyapokea mahali ambapo wako. Katika nchi hii, Bi Speaker, watu wengi ni wagonjwa wa ugonjwa huu wa saratani, na wakati ambapo serikali itasisitiza ili jambo liweze kufanyika, hao watu wataweza kupata matibabu. Naomba.
Honorable Paul is the youngest member of the National Assembly. The youth should emulate, and you're doing very well. Let me have the member for Alego Usonga, Honorable Atandi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. And from the onset, I would like to congratulate my sister, the Honorable Gladys Wanga, for sponsoring this legislation. Madam Speaker, because this is a question to do with cancer, let me begin by passing my condolences to a family of a great man, Mr. Lucas, who was arrested yesterday, who was my teacher, and Mr. Lucas died from cancer complications. Madam Speaker, cancer is killing a lot of people in this country. And cancer is killing our people not because we are unable to treat cancer, but because by the time you are diagnosed with cancer, it is too late in the day. And I think this bill is actually trying to cure this problem. Because when you begin to fall sick and you start visiting clinics, you start visiting health centers, and in most cases, you are either suffering from small ailments, and in the end, by the time you visit these clinics for over 2 or 3 years, by the time it is detected that this is actually cancer, it is actually too late in the day. And therefore, Madam Speaker, the thinking in this bill that the training of cancer or oncology training should be given to all cadre of healthcare professionals is something that I think would be able to help us a great deal in ensuring that everybody in the healthcare channel is able to detect cancer. Madam Speaker, cancer is really not really a serious disease. It is only serious because by the time it is detected, it is too late. So I really would like to thank support this legislation that everybody in the healthcare chain is going to have some little knowledge on cancer. That is going to help. Secondly, Madam Speaker, when you talk to leading oncologists in this country, the likes of Professor Abinya, they will tell you that the cancer medication is universal. The way oncologists in Kenya who treat cancer here in Kenya is the way those in America, in China, in USA, this is the same way they're using the same method. So it is therefore important that we advance the principle of telemedicine and ensure that we could treat our patients using technology. I know that in most cases for these oncologists to make a decision on what method of treatment should be given to a cancer patient, they do what is called teleconferencing, where they talk to their colleagues in other countries, and they compare notes, they decide together that this is actually the method we should employ on this particular case. And Madam Speaker, I remember when my colleague, the Honorable, the late Kibra MP was initial stages of his cancer. I remember talking to these professionals, and they told me that the initial case was that they had to do a teleconferencing, and they were able to come up with something that really to onset the training, the medication, so the treatment. So, Madam Speaker, employing technology in addressing cancer issues is really going to help, because then a patient who is sick in Murmalanga Health Center, where I come from, would actually be attended to by specialists from Nairobi and vice versa. Therefore, Madam Speaker, the two approaches in this bill, which is to employ telemedicine, 1, and 2, to employ technology in the treatment of cancer, and 2, to ensure that all our health professionals, be it from down from the clinicians, clinical diploma in clinical people doing clinical medicine, and etc., is really going to help us, to manage. And I want to close by saying that cancer is a normal disease. It is a disease that should not kill our people. It is a disease like malaria. So what it matters is just how we approach the treatment, and I think this bill is going to help us a great deal. Thank you, and thank you, my Honorable Gladys Wanga, for sponsoring the bill.
Very well. Let me get the member for Chipkut. You are the Chipkut. Give me the
14.
The member for Ainabgoi and Honorable Chipkut.
Madam Speaker, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. I arise to support this legislation by the High Honourable Lady of Parliament, Gladys Wanga. Indeed, cancer is a killer. As much as we are addressing COVID-19, I've said times and again that this is a global pandemic that has never been witnessed by mankind. But cancer is a disease. It is indeed a crisis that has never been witnessed by mankind. Madam Speaker, permit me, before I contribute, to give my heartfelt sorrow. Yesterday, we buried David Kamau Maina, who died of cancer complications. Madam Wanga, I'm happy for this legislation. It is true that you've talked about telemedicine, medicine and e-health. Technology and digital infrastructure is key. I've talked times and again about Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital in my own constituency, that Moi Teaching and Referral is serving 22 counties. And that's why I've been fighting for allocation of money to be put in Moi Referral, so as to enable us buy the latest and highest equipments. One is the highest resolutions machine, MRI, and so on and so forth, just but to mention a few. Madam Speaker, this disease, cancer, my father was killed by cancer. I took him to India, Bombay, died of liver cirrhosis, and it was cancer. There are measures for curative and preventives, but it is good to build capacity building. Kenya has not the highest, genius, skilled personnel. And I want us to give the highest incentives, packages, and so on and so forth, so that they have total commitment in treating our own people who are suffering from cancer. Secondly, Madam Speaker, this is indeed a relief. You know, when we legislate laws and to become in the legal framework according to Article 43 and 44, and His Excellency the President is very key in universal health care. And NHIF, I've been saying time and again, Madam, since you are the chair for finance, NHIF have proposed time and again that they must reduce from 500 to 300 to be affordable to our citizens, more particularly in urban settlement areas, because those are very poor people, they don't get any income and so on and so forth. Tomorrow I'll be going, Madam Speaker, to Munyaka and Kapsoya. We are taking money to caution them. Therefore, lifestyle, hereditary, and food, we must be going to hospital more often to check now and then. Madam Speaker, I stop and I rise to support with a lot of totality. Thank you.
You support with a lot of totality. Well, remember, it's also good that you'll be referring to your constitutional articles. You talked of 43 and 44, and let's make sure it speaks to what we are talking about, and that is quite in order. Let me have the member now. Let me, Honorable Wanga, when she was moved, you talked about breast cancer, cervix cancer. Let me hear from now the ladies. Let me hear the member for Likoni. Is she in the house? Boko. Miss.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. And from the onset, I want to congratulate Honorable Gladys Wanga for bringing this bill, because before we are having several motions, even the last parliament, talking about cancer disease. And today we are talking about this bill brought by her. I congratulate you. It is known and it is in the public domain that cancer has robbed so many Kenyans, the young, the old, the poor and the rich, the likes of Bob Coleman, even our colleague here, Honorable Okoth, who also died from cancer. I want to agree with what Honorable Gladys Wanga has just said, that there is a need to have some training so that we can have more medical personnel in terms of oncologists. Because this disease, it is a very serious one, and there's a lot of people suffering from this disease. But when we look on the number of oncologists which we have in this country, it is real pathetic. For instance, before devolution in Mombasa, that is the Coast General Hospital, we used to have only one oncologist who could maybe be there to cater for the entire region, because the other counties like Kilifi and Kwale, they didn't have any. And even today, it's unfortunate that we still have counties which they don't even have one oncologist. So you just wonder, how do these people survive with the many cases of cancer increasing day by day? Apart from just having more oncologists in the various cadre, like the radiation oncologists, the therapy oncologists, and nurses who are also doing oncologists, we also need to have some satellite clinics. These satellite clinics can be there so that Kenyans can access some services like the free screening, like early diagnosis, the palliative care, and also being taught about cancer. Because up to now, there's still some communities which they don't believe that there is cancer. For instance, where I come from, the cervical cancer, where women have some bleeding throughout, people would say this is witchcraft, and they call it mruo. That is, somebody has been witched. So there is a need also to have some awareness program, sensitization meetings, to ensure that our community understand what is cancer disease. And I want to agree with Honorable Gladys Wanga that we need to have the e-health concept so that even information can be disseminated to the entire public so that they can understand what cancer involves. I also want to agree with her because many people don't know if you have a certain level of cancer, maybe which hospital you can go. Some people, they can just go to the small clinics at the grassroots level where they don't have those services. So this information is very important that they have to be taught. Again, cancer, we need to go just beyond medical treatment about cancer. And then we need to go to the welfare of those people suffering from cancer. You can imagine families take loans. Family do a lot of fundraising. They take their patients to India, outside the country, which is very costing. And some of them, they become bankrupt. They undergo some depression. Some even commit suicide just because of this cancer disease. The way we have been taking attention and treating HIV when it started, we need to ensure that we put more attention on cancer, because cancer is killing people every day. Every day people are dying of cancer. Even some of the people who died under COVID-19 pandemic, it was because of cancer-related infection. So this cancer should not just be treated just like any other normal disease. It has to be given more extra care. I want to congratulate you, Mheshimiwa Gladys Wanga, for bringing this bill. And it is high time that we have to declare and pronounce cancer as a disaster. Because it is a disaster. It is even more than HIV. People would say it's better that you have HIV, you'll have your drugs, taking your drugs, and you just live a normal life. But with cancer patient, it is very difficult. Even the disease, the chemotherapy you undergo, and all the services you undergo, the medication you undergo, yes, they reduce the pain, but they also have so many disadvantages in your body. So this disease is very serious, and there is a lot of policy changes, what Gladys Wanga has said, which need to be upheld, which need to be implemented by the government. So that we ensure.
Very well. And now the floor goes to the Honorable Okello, the member for Nyando.
Madam Speaker, I thank you very much for this opportunity. And from the outset, let me congratulate my sister, Honorable Wanga. She's my sister both in this house and in the village, unknown to many. And my sister, thank you for doing this. I remember with nostalgia, my both parents died in 1997 and 2001, my father and mother respectively, on cancer, or as a result of cancer. And therefore, this is a subject that I'm very passionate about to address the plight of cancer patients. Madam Speaker, this is an important law that we need to quickly pass, or a bill that we need to quickly debate and pass so that the patients who are suffering out there can have a future and can have some hope. And law is essential, Madam Speaker, to implement a number of globally agreed best practices. Cancer is a global problem. It is not an exception for any country. It is not a respecter of any person. It is not a respecter of social status or origin of a person. And therefore, we must collectively address the challenges and imponderables that come with cancer as a disease. Madam Speaker, it needs a multi-sectoral approach. I know as a house here, and we have been very proactive when it comes to enacting pieces of legislation that address these issues. The Ministry of Health, the governors down there, because this is a devolved function, the Council of Governors, and any other person who should be part and parcel of this must collectively approach this issue of cancer so that, for once, we can confine it into history books. Madam Speaker, we must ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all and all ages. And that goes deep into what cancer is all about. Madam Speaker, a lot has been said. Even though there is no specific cause of cancer, but at least there are peripheral issues that are surrounding the upsurge of cancer. And one of them has been the usage of cigarettes and alcohol. And therefore, nothing stops this House, now and in future, to levy huge